Listen closely. What I'm about to tell you can change your life. I know the weight you carry, the silent battles, the nights you cried when no one was watching, the pain you thought no one could understand. But here's the truth. God sees every single tear. Not one drop is wasted. Maybe you've been praying for relief, asking God, do you even hear me? Maybe you've begged for answers that never came. But I need you to know, your pain is not the end of your story. God is working, even in your suffering. If you've ever felt forgotten, if you've ever wondered why life feels so heavy, then don't look away. Stay with me until the end, because this message is for you. By the time we finish, you'll understand why your pain has a purpose. You'll see how God is already turning your struggles into victory. So don't just listen. Receive this message. Because today, things are going to shift for you. Let's get into it. You may feel invisible to the world, but you are never invisible to God. Every sigh, every cry, every sleepless night, He has witnessed them all. The world may overlook your suffering, but God never does. In Psalm 56:8, it says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." That means every tear you've shed has been counted, treasured, and remembered by the Almighty. I know it's hard to believe when the pain is suffocating. I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning in sorrow, like no one truly understands the depth of your struggle. But I need you to hear me. God knows, and He cares. Pain has a way of making us feel alone, but the truth is, you are never alone. God's love surrounds you, even in your deepest despair. His presence is closer than your next breath. When you cry, He is near. When you fall, He is the one lifting you up. Think about this. If God notices a single sparrow fall from the sky, how much more does He notice you? Matthew 10:29-31 reminds us that we are far more valuable than the birds of the air, and yet He takes care of them. Your pain does not go unseen. Your suffering is not ignored. Even when you feel like no one understands, God understands perfectly. He sees what others don't. He hears what you can't even put into words. And here's the most important part. He is not just watching. He is working. You might not see the purpose in your pain yet. You might be asking, God, why me? Why this? Why now? But trust this, your pain is not the end of your story. Right now, in ways you can't even imagine, God is setting the stage for your breakthrough. Stay strong. Hold on. Because what you see as your breaking point, God sees as the beginning of your victory. You may feel forgotten, but God has never abandoned you. And if He sees your pain, do you think He would leave you without a promise? No. He's already spoken a word over your life. But do you know what it is? Hope is not lost. It's just buried under the weight of your struggles, but it's still there. God promised to never leave you, nor forsake you. That means even when you feel like you're at your lowest, He is still standing with you. He is not a man that He should lie. When He makes a promise, He keeps it. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That is not just a comforting verse, it is a guarantee. God is telling you that no matter how heavy life gets, He will not let you fall. I know how easy it is to doubt when everything around you seems to be falling apart. When bad news comes, when people betray you, when your prayers seem unanswered, it's easy to think, maybe God has forgotten me. But that is a lie. God does not forget his children. His promises are like an anchor. When the storm rages, his word holds you in place. When the winds of life try to knock you down, his truth keeps you steady. Maybe you've lost hope. Maybe you've been carrying pain for so long that you don't even remember what joy feels like. But let me remind you, hope is never truly lost when your trust is in God. If you're still breathing, God still has a plan. If your heart is still beating, he is still working in your life. Your pain is real, but so is his promise to restore, redeem, and renew. God does not just promise survival, he promises victory. And that victory is closer than you think. Hope is powerful, but it's not enough to just know the promise. You have to believe it. And belief, that's where true healing begins. But what if I told you healing doesn't always look the way you expect? Healing doesn't come just by waiting. It doesn't come by ignoring the pain or pretending it doesn't exist. Healing comes through faith, through believing that God is working, even when everything around you suggests otherwise. You've been carrying wounds, some visible, some hidden deep within your soul. Pain that no one else understands. Maybe you've tried everything to fix it. You've searched for answers, turned to people, distractions, even things that only left you more broken. But here's the truth. No earthly solution can heal a spiritual wound. Only God can. Faith is not just believing that God exists, it's trusting that he is who he says he is. That he is the healer, the restorer, the one who binds up the brokenhearted. Isaiah 53:5 declares, "By his wounds we are healed." The same God who spoke life into existence is the same God who can restore what has been shattered inside you. But healing requires surrender. You have to let go of the pain you've been holding on to. You have to trust that God's way is better than your way, that his timing is perfect, even when it feels delayed. Some wounds take time to heal, not because God is slow, but because he is thorough. He is working in layers, removing bitterness, strengthening your faith, preparing you for something greater. It's time to stop carrying this burden alone. Lay it at his feet. Let him do what only he can do. Because when you truly trust him, you don't just find healing, you find wholeness. Life can feel overwhelming. We're surrounded by challenges, pain, negativity, and distractions pulling us in every direction. But through every struggle, there's one answer: God. Here on Jesus Daily Blessings, I share messages to guide you, uplift you, and remind you of God's promises for your life. If you want to stay closer to God, subscribe to our channel, and let's walk this faith journey together. God can heal you, but what if the very thing you're asking him to remove is the thing he's using to prepare you? What if your struggle isn't a curse, but a setup for something greater? What if your pain is not a punishment, but a preparation? What if the storm you're facing is not meant to destroy you, but to build you? God never wastes suffering. He allows trials, not because he enjoys watching us struggle, but because he knows what's on the other side. Every great man or woman of faith had to walk through fire before stepping into their purpose. Look at Joseph, betrayed, enslaved, imprisoned. But every trial positioned him for his destiny. Look at Job. He lost everything, yet in the end, God restored him double. Look at Jesus. Before the resurrection came the cross. Your trials are shaping you. The things that hurt you now are strengthening you for what's coming next. Romans 5:3-4 says, "We also glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. In other words, what you're going through is refining you. It's teaching you endurance, resilience, wisdom. But here's the key. You have to keep going. The enemy wants you to quit. He wants you to believe that the struggle is pointless, that you are stuck. But you are not stuck. You are being prepared. So shift your perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "God, what are you preparing me for?" Because I promise you, what's coming is greater than what you've lost. Hold on. The fire is not breaking you. It's making you. You may not see it now, but everything you've endured is shaping you. And here's the incredible part. God never lets pain have the final say. Do you know what comes after the storm? The night feels long. The pain feels unending. But here's the promise. Joy is coming. I know it doesn't feel that way when you're in the middle of it. When your heart is shattered. When hope feels distant. When all you see is darkness. But the word of God never lies. Psalm 30:5 says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." That means this sorrow is temporary. This pain will not last forever. You might feel like joy is impossible right now. But God is not only the God of comfort, He is the God of restoration. He doesn't just wipe away your tears, He replaces them with laughter. He doesn't just remove the pain, He fills the empty spaces with His overwhelming peace. Think about it. Every storm you faced before, you survived. Every moment you thought would break you, it didn't. You are still here. And if God brought you through before, He will do it again. Isaiah 61:3 promises that He will give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. So don't believe the lie that this sorrow is permanent. It's not. God is turning your mourning into dancing, your sadness into joy. It won't always be like this. A new season is coming, and when it does, you'll look back and see, God was faithful all along. Joy is coming. But what if I told you that receiving it isn't about what you feel, it's about what you choose to trust? Because the real battle isn't just about the pain you've been through. It's about whether you believe God is still in control. God's plan is greater than your understanding. Right now, you may not see it. Right now, it might look like chaos. But God sees the full picture. You might be asking, why did this happen? Why did I have to go through this? But have you ever considered that this pain is part of something bigger? Joseph didn't understand why his own brothers betrayed him, why he was thrown into prison. But in the end, he saw God's hand in everything. In Genesis 50:20, Joseph tells his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Your story is still unfolding. The things that feel like setbacks are really setups for something greater. The closed doors, the delays, the disappointments, they are all part of God's design. Romans 8:28 assures us, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. But here's the challenge. You have to trust Him. Even when it's confusing. Even when it hurts. Even when nothing makes sense. Because faith is not about understanding everything. It's about believing that God is working, even when you can't see it. So let go of the fear. Stop trying to control what only God can control. His plan is always better. His way is always higher. And in the end, you will see, He never failed you. Not once. It's hard to trust when you don't understand. But what if everything you've walked through, the pain, the setbacks, the waiting, was never just about you? What if your story is meant to change someone else's life? Right now, you may feel like your pain has no purpose, like you're suffering for no reason, just enduring hardship without meaning. But listen to me. God is turning your pain into a testimony. You may not see it yet, but the very thing that tried to break you will become the very thing that lifts you higher. The wounds you carry today will be the proof of God's healing power tomorrow. The battles you're fighting now will one day be the reason someone else finds strength. This is not just suffering, it is preparation. Revelation 12:11 says, "They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." That means your story, your struggles, and your victories have power. Think about the greatest testimonies you've ever heard. Were they born from comfort? No. They came from struggle, from deep valleys, from seasons of pain that seemed unbearable. But in the end, those struggles became evidence of God's faithfulness. Your pain is not pointless. It is shaping you into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who can stand as a witness of God's power. You will be able to say, "I was in the fire, but I did not burn. I was broken, but God restored me. I was lost, but He found me." And here's the most powerful part. Your testimony won't just be for you. It will be for others. Someone out there needs to hear what you have survived. Someone is praying for proof that God is real, and your story will be the answer to their doubts. So don't despise this journey. Your testimony is being written. Hold on, because one day, the pain you're feeling now will be the very thing that sets someone else free. This is not the end. This is the making of your testimony. Your pain will become a testimony, but let's be honest, some days you don't even feel like you have the strength to keep going. What do you do when you're at your weakest? When you have nothing left? There comes a point when you feel like you have nothing left. You've been holding on for so long, but now you're exhausted. The weight of life is pressing down on you, and no matter how hard you try, it feels like you're barely holding yourself together. But hear me, you were never meant to do this alone. The strength you need does not come from you. It comes from God. Isaiah 40:29 says, "He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, He increases strength." That means even in your weakest moments, God's strength is available to you. When you can't walk, He carries you. When you have no words left to pray, He intercedes for you. When your strength is gone, His power takes over. You may think you have to be strong all the time, that you have to keep pushing forward on your own. But that's not how faith works. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." That means God's power is most evident when you surrender. When you stop trying to rely on your own strength and instead lean fully into Him, that's when you'll experience His supernatural power lifting you up. Look back at your life. Remember the times you thought you wouldn't make it, but somehow you did. That wasn't by accident. That was God's strength, carrying you when you had no more strength of your own. And if He did it before, He will do it again. You don't have to fight this battle alone. You don't have to pretend you're strong when you're not. It's okay to be weak, because your weakness is the very place where God's power shines the brightest. So stop trying to do it all by yourself. Let Him lift you up. Let Him strengthen you. Because when you rely on Him, you will find a power greater than anything you could ever have on your own. And that power will carry you through. You don't have to fight this on your own. But what if I told you you were never supposed to? What if this battle was never yours to begin with? You have been fighting, pushing, struggling, trying to make things work on your own. But what if I told you that this battle isn't even yours to fight? What if I told you that God has already claimed victory on your behalf? Too often, we wear ourselves out trying to fix everything, trying to control every outcome, trying to force things to happen in our own strength. But Exodus 14:14 gives us a clear promise. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. That means you don't have to carry this burden alone. God is fighting for you. He is battling in the spiritual realm, shifting things behind the scenes, breaking chains, making a way where there was no way. But in order to experience His power, you have to surrender the fight to Him. Think about David and Goliath. David didn't win because he was stronger or better equipped. He won because he understood one thing: the battle belonged to God. He didn't step onto the battlefield in his own strength. He stepped out in faith, knowing that God was going before him. And because of that, victory was already guaranteed. The same is true for you. Whatever you are facing, whether it's a financial struggle, a health crisis, a broken relationship, or a spiritual battle, God has already claimed the victory. But you must stop trying to do it in your own strength. Hand it over to Him. Trust Him to fight for you. This doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you pray. You stand firm in faith. You refuse to let fear and doubt control you. And you walk in the confidence that God never loses a battle. So stop worrying about how things will turn out. The outcome is already decided. The victory is already won. Because the battle, it belongs to the Lord. God has already claimed the victory. But victory isn't just about winning the battle. It's about what comes after. And let me tell you, what's coming next is greater than anything you've left behind. You have been through the fire. You have walked through the storm. But listen to me, this is not the end. God is not just bringing you out of this. He is bringing you into something greater. Isaiah 61:3 says that He will give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. That means that what was once broken will be restored. What was once lost will be returned. What the enemy meant for harm, God is turning around for your good. Maybe you've been stuck in a season of pain, a season of waiting, a season where it felt like nothing was changing. But seasons always shift. And your new beginning is coming. God specializes in making all things new. When the enemy thought he won, when it seemed like there was no way out, God was already planning your comeback story. And when He restores, He doesn't just give back what was lost, He multiplies it. Look at Job. After losing everything, God gave him back double. Look at Joseph. After years of suffering, he was raised up to a position of power. And now, it's your turn. Your new beginning is here. But here's the key. You have to believe it. You have to step into it. Don't stay stuck in the pain of yesterday when God is opening a door to something greater. Don't let fear of the past keep you from walking into the blessings of the future. This is not where your story ends. This is where it begins. Walk into it with faith, because the best is yet to come. God is turning your pain into victory. He's writing a new chapter for you, a story filled with hope, joy, and purpose. But remember, God doesn't just bless us for ourselves. He blesses us so we can be a blessing to others. If this message has encouraged you, imagine how many more lives could be touched by hearing God's word. Through your support, whether through super thanks or membership, you are planting seeds of faith, helping spread God's truth to those who need it most. 2 Corinthians 9:6 says, "Whoever sows generously will also reap generously." Every gift, big or small, makes an eternal impact. So right now, I want you to take a step of faith. If you feel led, click below to give and become part of this mission. Together, we are bringing hope to the world. Now that you've heard this message, don't just walk away. Declare your victory. There is power in your words. When you speak in faith, you activate God's promises over your life. Drop this in the comments right now. God is turning my pain into victory. Even if you don't see it yet, declare it. Even if you're still in the middle of the storm, speak it out. Because when you align your words with God's truth, you position yourself for breakthrough. And if this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs encouragement. You never know, your act of faith might be the very thing that helps someone else find hope. Let's create a wave of faith in the comments. Declare your victory, claim your joy, and trust that God is already working behind the scenes. Your story is not over. Your testimony is just beginning. Amen. Please like this video and leave a heartfelt amen in the comments. If you want to stay closer to God, subscribe to our channel.